Okay, welcome to part 3 of the cloning series. We're going to take another look at the clone stamp tool, look at some additional controls you have over that, and we're also going to look at Vanishing Point. Okay, so first of all, over here, remember, click the left hand, click on the left, click the clone stamp icon, and if we're going to copy this boat here, we hold the Alt key, left click on the source, and then we can start painting it in. But what we're going to do is make this a bit smaller. Okay, it's going to be in the distance, so to make it look natural it needs to be smaller. So we use a shortcut, hold the Alt key down, the Shift key at the same time, and then the left square button, and as you can see that's getting smaller. Just hold it down until you're happy where it is, and then you can start painting. There we go. Right, in addition to that, you can rotate your image as well, so go back, select that again, and this time press the Alt, Shift, and then the left hand, the greater and smaller symbols, so the left hand chevron on the bottom right of the keyboard, and you can see that's turning, and you can turn that left and you can turn it right. Okay, that's using the shortcuts. If you want to do it longhand, if you go up to Window at the top here and drop down to Clone Source, then you get this dialog panel, and you can select 5 different presets. It's on the current one, which I've just done, and that's got the size of 59% of the original image and minus 1.2 angle. And if you want to set that back to its original settings, just click that reset button there, and you need to do that at the end because it will remember these settings. Okay, so reset transform, and so what I did with the shortcuts you can set manually in here if you want to. One more thing we can do using the clone source panel is a mirror image, and that's horizontal and that's vertical. You can see these icons here. And what we do is select this image here. Okay, we're ready to start painting in there, but we're going to do it in a mirror image, so we just click that icon there, and there you go, get mirror image. Okay, very useful that when you've got something that's symmetrical and something that's perhaps covering one half, maybe a doorway or something like that, you can actually use a mirror image of the other doorway. You could even use it with eyes in portraits and things like that. You know, if you get a bit of reflection in a spectacle, that kind of thing. This is the way to do it. Okay. One thing to bear in mind. I'll make a selection there, so that's ready to paint. If I go into a different document, you can actually paint that straight in because it remembers the original selection. It's worth remembering if you want to paint something into a different document. Control Z, get rid of that. And that covers the additional controls that you've got over the clone stamp tool. This rotation is very good for, and the mirror tool is very good for staggering your cloning, so that what you painted is different. You don't get repetition. Alright, so that's that. And we'll go into this image now, and the next thing we're going to look at is using the clone stamp tool to remove fringing. So as you can see here, we've got some white fringing caused by a bit too much sharpening, a bit too much clarity. So select the clone stamp tool and go up here onto mode and drop it down from normal to darken. I'm going to choose a source point in the sky here, and now what happens is, because we're in darken mode, it will only write over areas that are actually brighter than the source point that you just selected. So we've got this white area here. If I try and paint over that, you can see, there you go. And even with a big brush, it won't write over the darker area. here as well. There you go. Oh, Control Z. Okay, that's the darken mode on the clone stamp tool. And the final thing we're going to look at is this is a stock image I downloaded from Pexels. If you're not familiar with Pexels, it's a stock site, but you can actually install it as a plugin to Photoshop. I have it here. You can see the icon here, and it's up here, of course, in my extensions, Pexels. Okay, just briefly, I'll show you what it does. If you click on it, you could search for any image you like, so balloons. Oops, try spelling it right. There we are. Okay. Set that. Okay. As you can see, it's really good quality. They generally are. They're TIFF images, really good quality. Great for if you need to do sky replacements or any sort of background changes or anything like that. And that's how it's done. Okay, so that's how I got the image. And we've got to get rid of this area here. Now we could use the mirror image that we just did, because the only area in this entire image that's got similar size and shape is here, but a mirror image. So we could do that, but the problem is there's shadows in here. Okay, so we don't want to use that as our source area. What we're going to use instead is the Vanishing Point. So if I click on Vanishing Point, that was up to Window, and then Vanishing Point. Sorry, let's cancel that. Filter, Vanishing Point. And this opens up a new window with different dialogues. And what we need to do is tell Photoshop that this has got a perspective, a particular shape that we want it to follow. I'm going to make this image a little bit smaller by pressing Control and minus, and then I'm going to go up to here onto the Create Plane tool, click on that, and now I'm going to set a grid and start at the top left and come right off the image that aligns with the decking boards on this pier. Right, didn't like that, it's red, it means Photoshop doesn't recognize it, so we can drag one round, there we go. And there we go. And that's a good grid. Don't click the OK button, you only do that at the end. We now want to do our cloning, so we go up to our clone stamp tool. This is the bit we want to clone out, this red spot. And we can go anywhere in here to use our source point. We're going to use somewhere there's no shadows. We're also going to use a point nearest to us, the larger areas, because there's more pixels in there. It's better to reduce it than to try and expand it from these pixels down here. You can do it, but it's not so good. Okay, so let's click there as our source point, bring it in to there, line up the lines and start painting. And there we go, we've done that, click OK. And if we zoom in there, that's not too bad. You could tidy that a bit up. I could have been a bit more careful, but yeah, it's basic. You need to line up the lines, but that's how it's done. Okay, and that's the Vanishing Point, and that's it. That's the third and final part of the cloning tutorials. See you on the next one.